How's it going, guys? My name is Matt Smith, and I've been joined by Jamie Mckay, and this is the weekly Armchair Sports Talk YouTube channel, and this is the Talk of the League podcast. Jamie, how are you, friend?
I'm doing all right, mate. Yeah, had a busy day, but we're getting there, mate. Always hectic on a Monday for me, but good to be joining yourself, mate, and let's talk some football.
Yeah, man. So we get straight into it. So this is going to be the first of the Talk of the Week football podcast. So we're going to get stuck into it, and we're going to kind of just float over basically the season that's been so far. Talk about the title race, talk about top four, top six. Talk about the relegation battle, and then we're going to talk about the transfer window as well. Have teams improved enough to stay up? Have teams maybe improved their chances of getting Europe this season? So we'll get stuck straight into it. Man City and Liverpool for me, two horse title race at the moment. there's 9 points in at the moment. Liverpool do have a game in hand. I think City are going to be very, very tough to catch the form that they're in. Liverpool have strengthened. Bringing in Luis Diaz from Porto, I still think it's not going to be enough. What do you think?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I was really impressed with the Luis Diaz signing. I do watch quite a lot of Portuguese football, Matt, so I'm pretty clued up on that league, and he's a very intelligent player, very creative, and I just feel like he'll fit into that Liverpool three perfectly when he settles in. But just a little side note to that signing. I know we'll discuss signings later, so I'll keep it brief on that. But I think they have added quality. They're always very sensible in the market, Liverpool, but I'm kind of edging towards the same mindset as you, mate. I think it's probably just not going to be enough this season. Whether they can sort of bring in some more players in the summer and push Man City again, but I feel like they're just at the top of the tree at the moment. And the issue with Man City as well, will be interesting to get your take on it as well, Matt, is they're so consistent. You know, they don't drop points in the games they're not supposed to. And I know mine and your team ain't doing that too good at the moment, but that seems an issue with regards to that consistency element, particularly with my team. And Man City seem to have nailed that down. They just do not drop points ground and they go 1-0 down. It's the same mindset, the same game plan, and they just seem to get results. And the consistency aspect at the top of the table is such a big thing, and they seem very good at grinding results out. Sometimes they don't always play that flamboyant, nice, attractive football. They just get results, and it's built on a very good foundation with a very settled defense. They've got a very intelligent defensive midfielder that does the defensive work for them, and they've got the creative players. Everybody knows they're creative players, so they've got everything, I think, to go all the way. And as I say, if they're not going to drop points here and there, when are they going to drop points? And you're looking at the Chelseas, maybe the Liverpools, dare I say it, the Uniteds, to take points off them. And they're just too consistent for them to drop points in the lower game. Like if going away to a Burnley or something, they just don't lose games like that. Whereas traditionally, if you're going to win a title, you've got to go to the smaller teams and get results, that the ones that are fighting for their lives at the bottom, and beat them. And Man City have been really consistent with that over the past few years. So I do agree with you. I just can't see past them. And to think that they're doing it all without a recognised striker as well, it just annoys me, to be honest with you. But so what they're gonna be like when they get that elite striker, which I'm sure they'll address that in the summer, you know. So they've obviously bought in Alvarez, but he's nowhere near the finished article, and he's not even at the club at the moment. But there's high hopes around him. But what if they go and get a world class elite striker? Like, they're playing consistently very good, attractive football without a centre forward. It's just abnormal, really, to be honest with you. And I just can't see anybody beating them.
Yeah, I think like I think it's a case that Liverpool need to win all their games, and Man City need to lose two or three, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to happen. I think I can see probably Man City dropping a couple of points here and there. Like every team has a dodgy game, every team has a bad game, but I can see the same thing happening to Liverpool as well. So it's a shame that Chelsea dropped away so tamely. Now, to say that they've dropped away, they haven't really. I mean, they're at the moment they're only a point behind Liverpool, but Liverpool have a game in hand. I think Chelsea's run kind of halted a bit there when both of their fullbacks got injured. Ben Chilwell and Reece James both getting injured around the same time. Then they were missing Lukaku for 4 or 5 weeks as well. They were on fire before that as well, like Reece James and Ben Chilwell were scoring left, right, and centre. So I think it was that kind of halted their progress a little bit, which is a shame. They seem to be fighting now for third place now at the moment. But what's interesting to me now is that fourth spot is wide open. I mean, like wide open. Anybody can get fourth spot. I mean, you have at the moment, Manchester United are occupying that spot. In fairness to United, they have 2 games in hand, on Chelsea, and if they win those 2 games in hand, they'll only be 3 points off Chelsea as well. But you have West Ham there, who are doing really well in my opinion. I thought they had a fantastic season last year, and I thought they were going to struggle this season in terms of squad depth when they had Europa League football on Thursday. But they've actually proved me wrong again this season. Yeah, they've proved me wrong again this season. They're 5th spot there. And then you have Arsenal, who seem to be doing really well under Arteta lately as well. They finally got Aubameyang out the door, which I think, I was speaking to a few Arsenal fans, they weren't happy that they capitalised in the transfer market to bring in a striker. But I think they've done massive business by getting Aubameyang out the door, freeing up a lot of wages for the summer when they do plan to go out and spend money. I'm hoping they stay away from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but I think they are going to go down that route now because Vlahovic went to Juventus.
Yeah.
Then you have Spurs then in 7th spot as well. Wolves are only 2 points off the pace as well in 8th. And then you kind of have a bit of a gap down to like 9th, 10th spots and all, where it's really chock-a-block down between 9th and 15th spot at the moment. So who do you think at the moment? Obviously, you have 5th and 6th spot there for Europa League, and then you have the Conference League as well, then probably getting 7th place. From what we've seen so far this season, who do you expect to fill 4th, 5th, and 6th places towards the end of the year?
It's like you say, it's very close, and there's a lot of decent teams. But I'm going to go back to kind of what I said about Man City earlier as well. It's the consistency element of the fixtures remaining, Matt, that I'm looking at and thinking. And from people who know me on this channel know, I can't see the consistency element from us, and I hope I'm wrong when I predict this as well. I'm sure someone will clip me up if I am wrong, but I think we're fighting for 5th or 6th. I just don't think we're consistent enough to get 4th.
Are you talking about who are you? Are you talking about Man United, or are you talking about Newcastle here? Because we have a comment here from Trevor Wade. Evening, guys. In fairness, Jamie is a really good speaker and a great United fan, Newcastle United fan, that is. Yeah. So
Trevor likes to give me a little bit of stick every time I'm on show. So cheers for being consistent, Trevor. Anyway, if you're watching me. So Matt understands the crack already, Trevor. So I live in Newcastle, but I'm a Man United fan. If you want to look at what I've got on. But, yeah, Trevor likes to remind me that I'm a Newcastle fan. Well, closet Newcastle fan in his eyes. But Keane don't help either. He's given me some banter in the past about it as well. So he obviously is looking. Emojis is coming. So always appreciate that one, Trevor. Nice one, mate.
Good man, Trevor.
It's just the consistency element for me, mate. And I don't see that from the United point of view. Look, West Ham have absolutely blown me away with their consistency. They've just improved year on year on since Moyes came back, and they've got a really good team. They've got a really competitive team. You've got your Tottenhams, your Chelseas. Are they gonna be able to kick on again? I know you said about the fullbacks at Chelsea; they were just different gravy when them two were firing on all cylinders. Particularly Chilwell, it's the best I've seen him play for Chelsea just before he got injured. Obviously went there for a lot of money, but Tottenham as well. Are they gonna? How are their new strikers gonna? Their new signings, gonna integrate Kulusevski that they've got from Juve, and they've also brought in Bentancur from Juventus as well. Another really coming into the Premier League. So are they gonna hit the ground running? Are they gonna take time to adapt? Particularly Kulusevski, I think he's a brilliant player, but he's very young, and it takes time to adapt for some players, particularly that come from Serie A, so the tempo in that league is completely different to the Premier League, but he's got fantastic ability. It's just, is he going to hit the ground running? And I think West Ham probably might fall off with regards to top four. I think they've got a very good team. I just don't think they've probably got enough quality in the goal scoring department to get that fourth position. But who knows? I think Chelsea are probably going to finish third. I think they're another team. They don't drop a lot of points against the teams they don't need to. Whereas for United, that's our biggest problem. And tomorrow's another test for us. And West Ham are in the same bracket, so I'd probably say either us or Tottenham for fourth. But with my Man United cap on for a second, I just don't think we're consistent enough to do it, unfortunately. And we've got to win games like tomorrow, and tomorrow's game is a much bigger game than it should have been because of what happened against Middlesbrough. So it's a case of it just puts more pressure on us, and this team are consistently not very good at dealing with pressurized situations. So it's going to be interesting to see how we adapt tomorrow. And then on Saturday as well, I'm actually going to Old Trafford on Saturday with our man Keno as well. He's going down as well, so it'll be good to see him. But you never know what you're going to get, whereas the other teams in and around us, they just seem to get them results in the games that they need to, whereas we don't. We've dropped far too many points this year. But it's like you say, it's literally a wide open door, and it's like who fancies to step through the door and get that fourth place? Because I think first to third is probably cemented, really, and it's all to play with. But it's just consistency. Whoever's going to be the consistent team and get the best run of form is going to get that fourth place, and hopefully it's my team, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But the teams that are in and around us, very good footballing teams that can also put a run together. So I think that's probably the business end of the season now, where you've got to get a run, ain't you? It's like your team as well. You need a run, but for a different reason, and it's like consistency is so important in the Premier League.
At the moment, I think the only teams who are consistent will be Man City and Liverpool in terms of getting 4 or 5 wins on the bounce. You can probably say Chelsea in there, but they're throwing in the odd draw here and there. That's why they're kind of slipping away slowly. Like you say, the teams in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. If any one of those teams can get, like, say, 5 wins on the bounce, that will propel them right up there into 4th spot. It's that open. But I don't see any team there doing that. And that includes Spurs, it includes Arsenal, it includes Man United, it includes Wolves. I think Wolves even have an outside chance of getting there. Like if Wolves win 2 or 3 games, they propel themselves into European spots. But that's enough about European football at the moment, because that's a distant dream for myself at the moment as an Everton fan. Obviously, before we were talking about starting the podcast back up again, Everton didn't know who their next manager was going to be. So looking back, the first 20 games of Everton's season were under Rafa Benitez. I was obviously against it from the start, but I backed him as any Everton fan. Well, not any Everton fan. I'd say majority of Everton fans gave him a chance because they didn't have any option to do so.
Yeah.
But he was on a sinking ship from the start. He actually got off to a flyer, in fairness to him. I think he had 13 or 14 points after the first 4 or 5 games. But we're 20 games in now and we only have 19 points. That just shows you how bad it's been since. I think Everton left it too late to sack him. We suffered damaging defeats to the likes of Brighton, Watford, Norwich teams around us.
Yeah.
But they've done the right thing now, so let's not focus too much on what it was before. They've brought in Frank Lampard. People ask me, do I think Frank Lampard is the right man for the Everton job? In terms of credentials, I'm going to have to say no, he's not. But in terms of being the best man for the job at the moment out of the current candidates, yes, he is the best man for the job at the moment. I think we have a comment here from one of the guys from Eagle Eye Football, Crystal Palace fan, Richard. Big up Matt and Jamie. How do you think Lampard will get both Dele Alli and Donny van de Beek playing back to their best?
It's a really good comment. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what you've got to say about that, because I was going to hit that one to you anyway.
To be fair, I can hand on heart say that Dele Alli and Donny van de Beek wouldn't be at Everton if Frank Lampard wasn't there. Vitor Pereira was the other managerial candidate for the Everton job, and if he had been the manager, Dele Alli and Donny van de Beek wouldn't have went. That's why Donny van de Beek took so long to make his mind up, because he actually was going to go to Crystal Palace. I've had conversations with Rich from Eagle about this. Like 3 or 4 days before the window closed, he was nailed on to go to Crystal Palace. Frank Lampard got the Everton job, and the whole thing changed. I believe now Frank Lampard has the same agent as Dele Alli, so there's 2 and 2 together, and that's what happens there.
Okay.
But in terms of Richard's questions here about getting Dele Alli and Donny van de Beek playing to their best, I'd agree with his sentiment there, saying getting back to their best on Dele Alli, but Donny van de Beek hasn't been given the opportunity to show what he's made of at Manchester United. So I wouldn't say Donny van de Beek's fallen off or he's dropped the level. He just hasn't been given the chance to show what he's about. Dele Alli, I think people were saying £40 million for Dele Alli. It's not £40 million for Dele Alli. It's heavily incentives based, in terms of Everton only have to pay Spurs £10 million once he plays his 20th game for Everton. And then it's like 5 million if we get top 6, another 5 million if we get Champions League football, and that's only in his 2.5-year contract. I don't see Everton getting top 4, possibly even top 6 in the next 1.5 to 2 years anyway. So as it stands, Dele Alli to Everton is £10 million. So, and listen, if Dele Alli propels Everton into the top 4 next season, it's well worth £40 million. Put it that way. So, but I think in terms of Dele Alli getting back to his best, he has the best manager in order to get him back to his best. Who was the best midfielder floating into the box? That kind of player that played off the number 10, played off the number 9. It was Frank Lampard for Chelsea. He's going to give him free rein. I think Dele Alli will do really well playing off the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. My only kind of head scratcher is, can you put Donny van de Beek and Dele Alli in the same starting 11 when you have Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when you have Richarlison, when you have Anthony Gordon, when you have Demarai Gray, especially after the way he played on Saturday against Brentford? They were electric, and Donny van de Beek, Dele Alli couldn't play because they were cup tied. So it's going to be interesting, especially tomorrow night's game against Newcastle, to see if Frank sticks with the team that played against Brentford, or he puts Dele or Donny in from the start. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays it. Ben Godfrey picked up an injury for Everton there. He's out for 5 to 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. That's big for us, because big blow for us, because but if Yerry Mina can keep fit, which is literally a toss of a coin, then we should be okay. But Mason Holgate's a bit of a liability, and Michael Keane's a serious confidence player as well. But Frank Lampard seems to be getting the tune out of him. Now it's only been one game. We're not going to get carried away. What do you think of Everton in terms of, do you think they've just been underperforming and that's why they find themselves in a relegation battle? Or do you think it was the way Rafa set them up? Do you think it was a case the players weren't playing for them? Because it was night and day from the Norwich game before Frank Lampard came into the Brentford FA Cup game on Saturday.
Yeah, to be honest, I know you said a few minutes ago there, it's really good listening to your insight on Everton. Obviously, we're supporting them as well, which hopefully week by week we'll get more of that. It's always good to hear another fan talk about another team, because obviously there's quite a lot of United-based stuff. So this is quite exciting for me to be able to talk about other clubs. I think that he's done good business for a start. Lampard, I do agree with you. I feel like he's only attracted them players because he's there. With regards to Everton as a whole, you say that they've got 19 points in 20 games, which is crazy, really, for the level of player they have in their team. I think they, with injuries, big style. But I think it all come down to the summer, really. I didn't get the vibe that people wanted Rafa there because of the Liverpool link. I was very surprised that he got the job. I'm not Benitez's biggest fan. Take away the fact that I'm a Man United fan. I just don't like the way he coaches. I've said that on multiple occasions, and people just generally think it's a dig because he was a Liverpool manager. That's not the case. I've sat in St James's Park. Yeah, Trevor, there you go. You can jump on that one. I've watched his teams, and they're very negative, very rigid. And it's a case of I just don't really think that that's a fit that Everton really wanted that style of manager. I was very surprised considering there was other options out there that they went for him, but he seems to get these jobs, and I just generally don't understand why now. I think he's kind of in the same bracket as Jose. They are good managers. I'm not sitting here saying Rafa isn't a good manager, but his tactics are dinosaur now. They're very defend first, attack second. And football's moved on a little bit with regards to the way you've got to adapt in game. And I've seen it firsthand. He didn't have a great team in Newcastle, don't get me wrong, but there's a myth up here that Rafa didn't get backed by Mike Ashley, which, yeah, maybe he didn't get backed. That's fine. But the money he did have, he wasted. So it's a case of he bought people like... I'm trying to think off the top of my head who he bought, like Manquillo. I mean, he's not done so bad, but he bought the boy from the Bundesliga. I can't think of his name off the top of my head now. But he kind of went for players that Muto. That's who I'm thinking of. He bought players like that, and he bought Rondon, who done okay at Newcastle. Like some Newcastle fans think he's a god. Like I've seen him play, and he looked overweight. I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm not going to sit here criticizing anyone on their weight. I'm not about that. But he just looked overweight for a professional footballer for the first 3 months of his Newcastle career, and I watched him live as well. So it's a case of I went to quite a lot of games under Rafa's tenure in Newcastle, and I just didn't see the fuss. But the thing is, they had nothing to cling on to apart from the fact that they had what was a world-class manager as their manager, and people absolutely idolize him up here. And I'm just like, I don't understand it. Like he kept them in the Premier League, and he rode with them when they went into the Championship. But other than that, what did he do? And the thing is, with Rafa up here, he used to get away with a lot. Like his substitutions at times, you were just thinking, how is that logical to what? Like you're 1-0 down and you're bringing on another defender sort of thing. And it was never questioned up here, but I generally think it was the toxic atmosphere between the fans and Ashley that they just clinged on. And that's fine. I'm not saying nobody's entitled to that. Football is opinionated, but I just didn't really. I always look at Everton as a nice club. Do you know what I mean? And they try to play good football. They've got very intelligent players, and I just didn't really think that fitted in.
Here's one for you now.
When Jamie mentions Newcastle, it just rolls off the tongue. Trevor, I live about 10 minutes away from the ground, man.
But what I wanted to say, we'll leave this. We'll leave the Rafa talk at this one. Is that with Everton, I think they gave him 3 or 4 games more than they should have, because to sack a manager with 10 days before the end of the transfer window, after bringing in Mykolenko, after bringing in Patterson, after allowing Rafa Benitez to sell Luca Dean to Aston Villa.
Yeah.
So if they had gotten rid of Rafa and brought Frank Lampard in at the end of December, start of January, giving Frank Lampard the full window, you probably could still have Luca Dean at the club. Now, people will turn around and say that we needed this to sell an asset there in order to bring in Mykolenko. He's a quality player, and listen, we have it's been and done now. It's in the past. We have a young left back there, Mykolenko. We have a new right back there, Patterson, to take over from Coleman.
Patterson, good player.
But the problem with that one was as well is that Everton from the top. This is a whole other podcast. I'll just touch on it really briefly. Is that Everton's owner, Farhad Moshiri, has a agent, super agent. They call him Kia Jarakovan or whatever his second name is.
Yeah.
Apologies if I can't pronounce the second name, but he is Anwar El Ghazi's agent, and he was trying to chow him in as part of the Luka Dean deal to Aston Villa, and now we ended up with Anwar El Ghazi on our books, and he took up one of our domestic loan options. So Frank Lampard had to buy Dele Alli and couldn't loan him from Spurs. That's why we could loan Donny van de Beek, and we had to buy Dele Alli. Now it worked out in the end, but I feel sorry for El Ghazi now at the moment, because El Ghazi's there now thinking he was going to get a game for Everton in the number 10 position, and then Frank Lampard brings in Donny van de Beek. He brings in Dele Alli. You have Anthony Gordon there playing really well for Everton at the moment. You have the Mary Gray, Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. What's El Ghazi going to do for the next 5 months of the season now at Everton? Like, now
it's like
an impact.
What you just said there, Matt. Like, it's amazing that we're talking about Everton in like a relegational sort of sense, because you just rattled off 5 or 6 players there, and I'm just like, these are quality players, man. Do you know what I mean? Richarlison's fantastic when he's on his game. He's one of the best wingers in the Premier League, inside forward for me. Calvert-Lewin, obviously, he got an injury, but he's another fantastic player. Like Donny van de Beek, Dele Alli. For me, Ali, how much does he want it? Because everybody knows he's got the ability, but it's up to him to prove that he actually wants to go to that next level and get back to where he was, and maybe in the England team. But I can't get my head around it. I mean, I'm not obviously an Everton fan, but obviously you are, so we'll be talking about them quite a lot. But I generally they're a nice club. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just saying that because you support them. Like, they've always played good football. They've always had good players. Like, and it's just, I just don't know I generally think that it was just the wrong appointment probably that they got with Rafa, and now they're paying the penalty. But I'm fully expecting them to kick on under Lampard, and I think it's a very intelligent signing because he has the players to work. And the one thing with Lampard is he's inexperienced, so he's going to call on the likes of Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin to dig him out of a little bit of a hole. And then you've got the 2 young fullbacks coming in. Seamus Coleman's been a fantastic player for Everton, but they did need that new. And I do really rate Patterson. I watch quite a lot of SPL football as well. I know Reece really rated Patterson as well at Rangers, so he is a really good signing as well. But I'm fully expecting you to get out of that situation over the next probably 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think obviously the next 3 to 4 weeks are huge for a lot of clubs around down that. Now, we're just going to glance over really quickly the transfer window, because obviously transfer window finished there last week. We're talking about down towards the bottom of the table with Everton, the likes of Newcastle. They've strengthened. They're probably at the moment now, before Newcastle had the money and before they strengthened, you probably say they deserve to be where they are. Now, do you think Newcastle have done enough in terms of trying to get out of the relegation zone? And as it stands, obviously the likes of Norwich, Watford and Burnley are down there. I do think Norwich, Watford and Burnley are going to really struggle. Is it a case that Newcastle and Everton get themselves out of it because they've strengthened in the January transfer window? And also, is it just the case that Everton are too good to be down there as it is? And also, another question on top of that, Jamie, is if Everton and Newcastle do start to leapfrog the teams ahead of them in the table, who do you think is going to drop back in terms of the likes of Brentford?
Yeah, I do think Everton are too good to be down there. I just think that something's went wrong for the first 20 games somewhere. But I'm fully expecting them to have a. I mean, we spoke off camera a few nights ago, didn't we? And I said I was expecting you to have a bounce. I do expect hard to get certain players working again, and integrating in the new players. I think Donny van de Beek will be a really good loan signing for you, and Dele Alli. Can you get the best out of him? I think Lampard probably is the right player to try and sort of tell him to get his head back on football. Gets him out of London, he can concentrate on his game again. So I'm expecting you to improve. With regards to Newcastle, I think they were linked with half of Europe in the January transfer window. every single day it was a different story, and you didn't know whether there was any legs to it at all. I think the players that they have brought in now the window's closed is probably intelligent signings. They're not the signings that I thought they were going to make. They were linked with Botman. They were linked with the boy from Seville. And then they ended
Costa,
up with
yeah.
Dan Burn. Diego Costa. I think it was
Carlos
Diego.
was, I think it was
Diego
Carlos, yeah.
Carlos,
So yeah.
And then they kind of went for Dan Burn, and they brought in Matt Targett. They brought in Chris Wood. I think they've kind of went with the mindset of buying in the Premier League, buying players that know what it's all about, going to these difficult away days and having to pick up results. I think Dan Burns, I mean, he wouldn't have been my choice. I was quite surprised when they brought him, but he's actually from here. So I think that probably played some sort of part. He's actually really appreciated by Brighton, so maybe he's actually a bit better than I think. I haven't watched him extensively. I don't know if you have. But I feel like they've got a core there with Chris Wood, with Dan Burn, and with Matt Targett of core Premier League players, and they've went out and sprinkled that little Brazilian magic with Bruno Guimaraes, which I think is a really good signing. But it all matters. And I say that word earlier as well. It's adaptation to the Premier League for new players, and I don't. Everyone's raving about him up here. It's like he's the second coming of Pele, But I think they just need to be a little bit more patient with him. He's been standing out in a very poor Lyon team, so it's a case of
Leon are like 10th in League One.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They're not doing very well. Like,
no, they're not, and they've got some good players as well, which tells me, yeah, he might be a good player, and I'm sure he'll add a lot of quality to Newcastle's midfield because they do lack it. But he's going to take time. He's not just going to hit the ground running straight away. He might have a blinder tomorrow if he plays, but he will stumble at some point. It always happens. They've just got to be patient with him. But that core Premier League signings, I think that Eddie Howe signed very well with regards to that, because if you look at Bournemouth, it only started going wrong when he started going into Europe for signings. When he bought key players from the Championship and the Premier League, they were very consistent, and they were a half decent Premier League team, So I feel like he's kind of went back to basics, and the board have been very patient with their signings, and I'm expecting them to. I don't know whether they're going to stay up. I'll be honest with you, Matt. What's your take on Newcastle?
I think the signings, were smart signings in terms of they signed well in order to stay in the Premier League this season. They brought in the likes of Kieran Trippier for next year and the year after. I think Bruno Guimaraes is obviously there in terms of he's part of the project in terms of going towards European football. Like Dan Burn isn't. He's literally been brought in to try and keep them up. The same with Chris Wood as well. Chris Wood, if put it this way, if Newcastle have a chance of getting anywhere near European football next season, Chris Wood will not be a part of it. Okay, that's just the way it's going to be. Like these guys are bottom 5 Premier League. Yeah, exactly. They're bottom 5 Premier League players. And Bruno Guimaraes, I didn't know anything about him before Newcastle were interested in him, to be honest with you. He wasn't pulling up any trees for me in a Lyon team that's seriously struggling. Now listen, he's getting his game for Brazil and stuff like that, so he's obviously a handy player. And to get paid 40 to 50 million pounds from, he is a future player for Newcastle. But he's going into a struggling Newcastle team who need results quickly. Is he going to be the type of player to grab the game by a scruff of the neck? Maybe. I haven't a clue. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's not, because I don't know enough about him. But is he even worth 50 million pounds? Is it a case that Newcastle got taken for a ride because they have the money there? Is there a bit of tax being added on there? You never know. But listen, I think Dan Burns is a good signing for them as well. He's fairly solid. I know a bit about him because he scored against Everton recently when Brighton beat Everton. So I know he's just basically an awkward 6'6" defender. Bringing in Chris Wood, I think, was a bit of a stroke of genius in terms of taking a striking option away from one of your relegation rivals in Burnley. But Burnley also went out and then got that big 6'7" striker from the Bundesliga as well.
Good
So
signing.
you could turn around and say Burnley made 25 million from letting Chris Wood go, but they only spent half of that in getting his replacement in. So you could say that was smart as well. Burnley being Burnley could stay up, and it would be funny, I think, to see Newcastle spending all that money and having all that money in the Championship, and Burnley staying up. It would be quite kind of funny. I do think Norwich,
I
even though
think
they're
it's a
picking up results
real,
lately,
it's a real, it's a real possibility. You know, they've
yeah,
won one game all season. You know, and there's the thing is there's optimism in Newcastle for the money side of things, but people are realistic as well to know that they're in a dogfight. You know, like you can have as much money as you want. You've got to pick up results now. The window's closed. There's no more spending. Can't go out
mm,
and buy the next player. So they've got what they've got. They've dropped some players from the squad, which has been talked about
mm,
quite a lot up here as well. Particularly a player they brought in the summer, Lewis. He's not even in the squad anymore. So it's a case
mm,
of they've got what they've got now, and they've set their stall out, and they've got to deal with it. But it's like you say, you've got your Watfords, you've got your Norwich, same mindset. So it seems like the word of the show is consistency, but that's what it's going to take at the top and bottom of the table. And
mm,
Newcastle need a good run of results, and I feel like they have to start tomorrow with views. And I generally think you'll probably beat Newcastle tomorrow, because I just think you're a better team. But it's a case of I think everybody was excited to see what they'd done in the window, and with you, they were intelligent signings for their
mm,
scenario.
yeah.
They wouldn't be buying Dan Burn or Matt Target on loan if they were fighting for the top 10. Do you know what I mean? It would
Yeah,
have
well,
been
the
different
likes of
players.
they were going for Carlos and they were going for Sven Botman, and they
Yeah,
obviously turned around and said, "Come back to us when you stay up in the summer, and then I'll sign for you." That's basically what those two players did, and then he said,
yeah.
"Right, we'll go for Dan Burns then." Like, yeah, I do think Newcastle have enough juice now to stay up. Hopefully, it doesn't start tomorrow. I do think the players are going to take a couple of games to kind of gel together,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then they'll probably do well enough. I think Everton. Obviously, if the Everton Newcastle game was at Goodison Park tomorrow, I'd be much more confident in saying that
Mhm.
Everton will win the game handy enough. The fact that it's at um
St James.
the fact that it's at St James's Park, it's kind of the start of Newcastle's season with the new money coming in. They've brought the new players in and stuff like that. Um, it's going to be a difficult game. As an Everton fan myself, I'd start the game off by saying just don't get beaten. Just
Yeah.
just at least come away with a point. Then we have a big game coming up against the likes of Leeds and then Southampton as well. Then following that, so Everton's next three games are absolutely massive. Before we leave the transfer window talk, though, I want to get your opinion on Arsenal's transfer dealings or lack of transfer dealings. I'm going to start it off by saying that I think Arsenal actually had a decent window in terms of getting rid of Aubameyang.
I agree.
I think Aubameyang's wages were probably holding them back a little bit in terms of not necessarily getting players in, because I think they were all in on Vlahovic and then he went to Juventus. But I'm actually quite surprised that Arsenal didn't do an Arsenal on it and just go out and buy somebody for the sake of buying somebody. I thought they were smart that they let Aubameyang go. They're doing decent enough at the moment without Aubameyang. They've shown that they're able to do that. They have goals from midfield in the likes of Smith Rowe. They have goals from Saka. Lacazette is starting to chip in with goals as well.
Mhm.
They're doing all right in terms of scoring goals. I think Arsenal's main aim this season will probably try and get back into some form of European competition, whether it be Europa League or Champions League. If they can do that, if they can get into Europa League, possibly even that fourth spot, they're after getting 350 grand a week off the wage bill. They have money there to spend. They could go really big in the summer in terms of bringing in three or four top quality players. and
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
where the likes of United and Spurs will have to start looking over their shoulder and saying Arsenal could be coming back here under the likes of Mikel Arteta. Do you think Arsenal? What do you think Arsenal are going to do this season? And like, what's your opinion on the whole Aubameyang scenario? Do you think it's a good move for them to get rid of him?
Yeah, actually, I put on my Twitter that I thought Arsenal got the better deal getting rid of him because he was a problem player, and I think when a player's on that amount of money, where's the motivation? You know,
Mm.
and I think that's a big thing. Man U had it with Sanchez, and
Mm.
I speak for Man United as well. In the comments, I was delighted when we got rid of Sancho because it was the same sort of issues. You know, it's like, does he really care? He's on 300 plus. You know, so it's a case of what I like with the Arsenal board is they've stuck by Arteta, and they've backed him not only in the market since he's been the manager, but they've also backed him in big decisions. And Aubameyang's been such an important player for Arsenal. But once you've got a problem player in the dressing room, particularly with a young squad, and Arsenal have quite a lot of young players, you know, you think of the likes of Saka's, they've got quite a young group there, Smyth Rowe, and you don't want a player like that that's sort of not pushing in the same direction as the rest of the team. So I think that the way that he dealt with Aubameyang is a credit to Arteta, really. I don't particularly think longer term he's going to be the answer for Arsenal, but hey, maybe he is, you know. So they're definitely backing him. They're definitely fighting they're pushing in his direction is probably the best word to put it across. And I generally think getting him off the books will probably be a good thing for their squad, not just for the manager. Um, and I do think I can understand from Barcelona's point of view why it was a sensible deal because they've been in a mess. Everybody will know about that. Aubameyang will probably do well in La Liga, a bit more of a slower tempo league because I feel like he's lacking a bit of pace now anyway, which was his main weapon. I think he'll do well for Barcelona, and he's an upgrade on Luke de Jong for them. But for Arsenal, it clears a massive wage bill for a single player. And I do think they'll reinvest that money in the summer and distribute them wages over maybe 2 or 3 players. And they'll go. I feel like they are sticking with Arteta. It's kind of similarities with Ollie, really, with us. But
Mm.
in the end, I think Ollie, it was just untenable. There's a lot more pressure being a Man United manager than there is Arsenal at the moment. But I feel like we're probably going in that direction, you know. And I feel like they're just coming back now. Arsenal, they've got a settled team now. They're trusting in their young players. They're investing in young players when they're buying in the market as well. The likes of the boy they bought from Brighton. His name's
Ben
deceived me.
White, yeah,
Yeah, Ben
Ben
White.
White.
Sorry. So they are going down a certain route, and you can see he's trying to sign a certain type of player as well, bringing in intelligent footballing players. Ben White's very comfortable on the ball. Odegaard's a really good footballing player. He can play nice little 1-2s in and around the penalty area, and they've got some really young players coming through as well. The likes of Saka, he's going to be a world-class player in a couple of years. So I feel like they're kind of and getting Aubameyang off the books is another step in the right direction, and it just frees up them wages to go again in the summer. And I think Arsenal will do. What's your take on the Aubameyang situation?
I just think it was, like I said before, I think it was a smart move.
Yeah.
Like you say, he was a bad egg.
Mm.
I think Arsenal, although a lot of Arsenal fans were kind of saying you've gotten rid of another player, you didn't bring anybody in. Yeah, but I think Arsenal will be okay in the summer. I think they're going to start bringing in serious amount of talent in the summer. So we'll move away from the transfer window now, okay? But before we do, who for you, who was your signing of the January transfer window?
I think probably for the situation that they're in, and then the fact that they lost Chris Wood, I was very impressed by the signing of Weghorst for Burnley, to be honest with you. I've
Mm.
seen him play quite a lot at Wolfsburg. His goals to game ratio in the Bundesliga is very good. I feel like he fits that Burnley role where they like to play the long ball and they'll play off of him. And I feel like he's an upgrade on Chris Wood. He's a better player. I was really impressed with that. Obviously, seeing Christian Eriksen come back into the league as well was fantastic considering what he's been in. So I suppose, yeah, Reese has put it as well. Yeah, I totally agree. That's the highlight of the transfer window for every football fan, I think, to see him back playing for any team. It's great to see him in the Premier League as well, because we'll get to watch him. But yeah, I was really impressed by the Vico signing. There was some other really good sort of marquee signings. Tottenham signed really well. But yeah, I just like that Vico signing. What about you? Who caught your eye?
I think that Liverpool signing Luis Diaz could be a game changer for them.
Good
To
signing.
be honest with you, and I'll say that as an Everton fan, fantastic signing for them. I think that does pave the way for Sadio Mane to leave the club. I don't see them signing Luis Diaz and then giving new contracts to Mane and Salah. I think they're going to tie Salah down in the contract and Mane will leave, but I don't see Liverpool losing that much sleep over Mane leaving the club if they have Luis Diaz coming in. They also have Diogo Jota there as well, and that Harvey Elliott fella, although he annoys me as a person for some reason. I think he's grown up a little bit now, but fantastic player, incredible player. The youth that Liverpool are able to attract. That Carvalho player from Fulham as well that they're looking to get for next summer. He's an incredible player as well for Fulham. Liverpool
Yeah.
are doing all the right things in terms of bringing players in, and they're not spending massive money. Like
No.
like Luis Diaz is going to be a serious player for Liverpool. Potentially could win them trophies with the likes of Salah, and like you have Jota there as well and stuff like that. And they're not spending mad money. Like it's not 70, 80 million on these players. Like which is credit to Liverpool, I suppose, in that type of way. Guys in the chat there, let us know what your signing of the transfer window was. But yeah, I'm gonna go for Luis Diaz with to Liverpool. But
Yeah.
so let's
Very
move
good.
on. We're gonna move on now, Jamie. We're gonna have a look at the upcoming fixtures. We have midweek fixtures this week. Starting with tomorrow evening. Now we have 3 games tomorrow evening. All quite interesting in terms of down the bottom of the league. Obviously, we have the massive game with Newcastle and Everton. It's probably the game of the night. You also have a London derby in West Ham and Watford, another big game in terms of down the bottom of the table for Watford.
Yeah.
Obviously, for West Ham trying to get into that European spot, and then you have Burnley at home to your team, Manchester United. Just quickly talk us through those 3 games. What do you think? What way do you think the 3 games are going to go? Start off with West Ham and Watford.
Yeah, it's a big game, top and bottom of the table, isn't it? We've obviously touched on that previously earlier on in the show, the contrasting fortunes but it's, as I say, it's a very important game for both sides of the table, that one. I feel like West Ham have got too much quality for Watford, but Watford are in a dogfight at the moment. They've obviously got another manager now, so they've got Roy Hodgson in. So he's coming in to sort of try and keep them up. So he's consistently a pretty decent manager with regards to doing that. I think he'll make them hard to beat, but I just think he's probably West Ham have caught them too early, and he'll win that game. They'll win that game tomorrow. I presume they're just a better team, and I feel like Watford will be one of the teams that go down this season anyway. Newcastle, Everton's obviously one you'll be keeping a close eye on, being an Evertonian.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see the final score in that. Obviously, I won't be watching that game. Just to point that one out, Trevor, I will actually be watching my own United just in case you're interested, mate. But it's a massive game, and it's a crunch fixture. It's a 6-pointer, it really is. More so for Newcastle, I think. Newcastle are in a dogfight, and I feel like they need to win their home games this season. They need to make St James's Park a tough ground to go to, and starting with Everton tomorrow. But it's going to be interesting to see what team Lampard puts out, and it'll be a really good game, actually. I'm actually a bit disappointed it's tomorrow. I wouldn't have minded watching that fixture. And then you come on to Burnley, Man. earlier, it's a much bigger game than it needs to be. And it's another pressure game for Man United. And it seems to be the way things are going at the moment. We just can't get any consistency. We just create so many chances and just drop points consistently in games. And that Middlesbrough games just put so much pressure on us. And it's a penalty shootout. I mean, look at it for what it is. The black and white of it is we got beat on a penalty shootout to a young boy with a fantastic future. He missed the penalty. So what? You know, penalty shootouts are what they are. It's a 50-50. So we should have won the game in 90 minutes. And now we're not in the FA Cup no more. The fan base is unhappy. The fan base is toxic at the moment with regards to the board, and it's just pressure on them players. And I do feel a bit sorry for the players, but it comes with when you play for Man United, there's pressure, and if you can't deal with it, you'll get found out. And I feel like there's a couple of players there that are sort of shying away from stepping up to the plate. And it's another game tomorrow. You know what you're going to get from Burnley. They're hard to break down. They're going to be in your face. They're going to try and make it difficult for you. And then new players going to want to impress as well, V-Course. So it's going to be a tough game. I feel like United are going to have to probably be patient in the game. I do think we'll win. I hope we'll win anyway. But they're playing for completely different reasons than we are at the moment. So that's going to be the interesting. It's another top versus bottom, so to speak, and it's a massive game for Man U because they need to get back on track to a certain extent and stop the noise from the fan base. Going into that Southampton game at the weekend, we need a win, so fans are going to Saturday expecting a performance, and the atmosphere being a little bit easier. If we get beat tomorrow, the ground's going to be toxic from the start on Saturday, you know. So it's going to be a really interesting fixture, that one. Obviously, you'll be watching your game. I might even give you a little WhatsApp if you get beat. Who knows? But
well, obviously, my ideal Tuesday evening, right, is
don't even say, man, you get beat.
No. My ideal Tuesday evening is for West Ham to beat Watford, Everton to bounce off Newcastle, and Man United to beat Burnley, because that will actually be like 9 points for Everton tomorrow, because it'll give them a massive step away from the relegation zone. If Burnley beat Manchester United and Watford beat West Ham and Everton lose to Newcastle, Everton are in the relegation zone. That's how much of it all depends on this. So massive game for Everton.
What's
tomorrow.
Your take on the United situation then? What's your take on it all?
I spoke with Keane and Reese on previous podcasts and stuff like that. I won't get too much into it, but I think United aren't playing as a team. They haven't been playing as a team for a while. There's a lot of individuals in the team. I think I don't want to go down the route as Ronaldo are holding them back and all that kind of stuff, because he's obviously one of the best players in the world and stuff like that. I do think there is certain games that Ronaldo shouldn't be playing. I think United would do better without him in the squad, especially when maybe even see the likes tomorrow night. You're gonna have to try and break down. They're gonna have 10 men behind the ball for the majority of the game. Is Ronaldo going to help you break them down? In terms of, Ronaldo is great on the counter attack, breaking teams down, getting in between the lines, stuff like that. Burnley are going to have literally 10 men inside their own 18 box for the whole game. So it's going to be one of them. Do you play him in that game? Does the manager have the big enough balls to turn around to Ronaldo and say, you're not playing today? Because I don't think you suit the system that we need to play to beat Burnley away from home.
No, I agree.
So I think the situation, obviously, unfortunate circumstances there surrounding a certain player. We won't get into it, but he's a big miss for Manchester United in terms of footballing reasons. He's a massive miss for Manchester United going forward. Jesse Lingard's going to have to be called upon now. You've had to let Donny van de Beek go. Cavani is probably one of your better players. Rashford, hit and miss. Maybe he's come back into a little bit of form lately. it's one of those. I think the midfield don't trust their back line either, and it's a different centre half partnership all the time as well. It's a strange one for Manchester United because I feel like I want to turn around and say that they should be comfortably inside the top four. But looking at them in terms of on paper, they're not better than Chelsea, they're not better than Liverpool, they're not better than Man City. Are they better than Spurs? Are they better than Arsenal? Like, are they better than West Ham at the moment? You'd be hard to say yeah they are. Do you know what I mean? That's just from me looking on the outside. Like if Manchester United and West Ham were playing tomorrow night, it's literally a flip of a coin. I wouldn't be confident in saying Manchester United are going to beat West Ham. Manchester United are going to beat Arsenal. They're going to beat Spurs.
No, I
Whereas
agree. I agree with you.
4 or 5 years ago, you could say, yeah, Manchester United are strong favourites there. Like, I don't want to get too much into it because it's you could dedicate a whole podcast to Manchester United, and the lads have their own Manchester United podcast as well there. But I think Manchester United are in a dangerous position where they're going from fighting from third and fourth place, but they're not looking over their shoulder at the teams coming from behind them. I think the likes of Arsenal and Spurs are strengthening in terms of Spurs are getting players in. Conte is their manager. They're going to click eventually. Son is
Yeah.
going to come back soon as well. Arsenal are playing the football that Arteta wants them to play now. They're improving. They're on the up. Man United are going backwards, and that's me being honest. They're not going forwards. They're not challenging for I'm not going to sit here like you probably say it as well yourself, Jamie. United have a better chance of finishing fifth than they do have finishing third.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I generally don't think we'll finish in the top four, and that's that. You'll get used to the bluntness of me as we do these every week, Matt. But Keane will tell you, Reese as well. But I don't think we're going to get in the top four. I just don't think there's too much going on in the club that just to concentrate on the football on the pitch. There's just absolute turmoil from left, right, and centre at that club at the moment. This is why I asked you. I know it's obviously not a Man United channel, but a Man United podcast. But it's good for me to hear your opinion, and that's why I put it here because everybody knows what I think of United. People have seen me on different podcasts throughout the week. Sometimes that's just predominantly about Man U, so it's refreshing to hear somebody else that doesn't support my team's opinion on the situation. But I think if you look at the around us, they're all from top to bottom, and I won't go in too much on this because it's like you say, it's not United based. But the relevance that we're playing tomorrow is why I've brought this up. But the West Hams, Tottenhams, Chelsea's, Arsenal's, they're all pulling in the same direction from top to bottom at the club. That's not the case at Man United. The fan base is against the board. The board don't trust the manager to put his in place. Certain players are getting priority picked that Ranić probably doesn't want in the 11. And it's just a mess, and I feel like it will cost us. But I'd rather, and I know this is a bit sort of random to say, but if we don't get in the Champions League, I would rather we didn't get in Europe at all, and be able to. It's not going to happen, but I don't want to be playing in the Europa League or the Europa Conference League. I would rather be out of Europe.
That's your level, Jamie. If you don't qualify for top four, Manchester United as it stands are Europa League level. Now you could say it's because there's 4 teams better than in the league, and you'd say that there's probably teams in the Champions League group stages that United are better than. But as it stands, there's definitely 3 teams better than Manchester United at the moment. And there's probably 2 or 3 teams who are on the same level, if not better than Manchester United at the moment as well.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be an interesting one. It's gonna be an interesting one. I mean, I thought it was strange there with Ralph Rangnick seems to be coming out in press conferences saying one thing about certain players, and then the players are coming out themselves on Twitter and saying, "I never said that." That's not
The
good.
thing is with that, what are they going to say as a player though? Do you know what I mean? If he's coming out and saying, look, he refused to play, like Martial, what's Martial going to do? Just come out and say, yeah, I did refuse, like that? It's not professional, is it? Do you know what I mean? So whoever you want to believe is entirely up to the individual that's reading the quotes, but they have to come out and say that. Lingard had to come out and say, I was available. Nobody's going to be privy to that conversation. Nobody knows the truth behind that. I know who I favour in that, because these players can't be trusted, none of them. So it's a case of, it is what it. I mean, you could talk about Man United all day, but I think that you nailed it on the head. That we're probably looking up and thinking, right, how do we catch them, but not looking at who's coming up like from behind us. And that's the nail on the head with regards to Man U. I think that's an absolutely spot on comment, and I totally agree with you with regards to that. I'm sure week by week we'll touch on Everton, touch on Man U a little bit because there are teams, but I just think that's a spot on assessment, really.
Yeah,
Bang
it
on the
is.
head with that.
It is the talk of the league podcast. But obviously, I'm an Everton fan. I'm gonna know a lot more about Everton than I do other teams. We will try and talk about as much of the other teams as possible. We had a chat about Arsenal's transfer deals. We talked a lot about Newcastle there as well. If certain things are happening about Manchester United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. They're going to be talked about a lot. That's just the way it is. But we're going to glance over the rest of the midweek fixtures now. We're not going to delve into a lot of them, and then we're going to have a quick look at the weekend's fixtures because we're going to be back next Monday. So there's actually a lot of Premier League games between now and our next podcast. So Norwich and Crystal Palace. I'm going to say for the lads in the comments, Eagle Eye Football there as well, that I hope Crystal Palace win. I just need Norwich to stop thinking that they're going to get out of this relegation fight. If they pick up wins at home against Crystal Palace, that could be a serious damage. Spurs at home to Southampton. That's a tricky game for Spurs. Southampton are one of them teams that seem to be playing decent football at the moment. So it's going to be an interesting one there. Man City at home to Brentford. I can see Man City absolutely bouncing off Brentford. I think Brentford are in free fall at the moment. Now that might just be a bit of fresh in the memory from the FA Cup game on the weekend between Everton. They don't look like a Premier League team. I think they've done really well at the start of the season to get as many points as they have done.
Yeah.
But they need to get to 38 points and I don't see them getting another 16 or 17 points or however many they need to get to in order to be safe. I think they could be the team that's dragged into it as Everton and Newcastle dragged themselves out of it. And Man City could start that damage there this week as well. You have Aston Villa against Leeds. Leeds surprised me this season in terms of their league position. I'm not going to say how poor they've been because they've been in the same boat as Everton in terms of injuries, missing key players like Patrick Bamford and stuff like that. They're heavily reliant on Rafinha's goals. Aston Villa, I'm kind of surprised that they're not a little bit higher than they are at the moment. I think they've done really well in the transfer window as well. Coutinho, another the transfer that we missed out. For some reason, I thought there was two. You could split the January transfer window in two. I think all the business that happened early on seemed like it was the summer for some reason. But I think Coutinho for Villa and obviously Luka Dean for Aston Villa as well. Two massive signings for them. I think that could be an Aston Villa win against Leeds. Wolves against Arsenal, that's a big game for me. I like to look at that game. I think Wolves are playing really good football at the moment. They've lost the Adama Traore to Barcelona.
Yeah.
They've made the Hwang sign permanent. Arsenal have been away in their warm winter training camp. Be interesting to see. That's going to be a good game to watch, I think, Wolves and Arsenal. But then we have another decent game, Liverpool against Leicester, to round off the midweek fixtures. Just going to touch on Leicester really quickly. How much of a letdown have they been this season?
Yeah.
Massive letdown.
Oh, big style. Yeah. I think that a lot of people, including myself, probably yourself as well, were expecting them to probably be the West Ham like this season, another one of them clubs that could potentially
They
bridge
won the FA
and
Cup
fight for
last year.
that top. Yeah, that's what I mean, and it's just gone wrong, ain't it? For whatever reason, I don't really know, but it's. I was looking at Brendan Rodgers as a possible option for Man U, and you look at Leicester now and think, nah, no way, you can stay where you are. Do you know what I mean? But it's such a strange. It would be great if there's any Leicester fans in the comments, do let us know, because it would be great to get an insight from a Leicester fan, really, to see what their opinion is on it, because it's from an outsider looking in. It's just like, what's happened? Like, you know, they've got some really good footballers. They signed well in the summer, and it's just like they've just hit a bit of a brick wall. But very strange. I thought they would be one of them clubs, another West Ham this year, that would be there or thereabouts, that sort of top seven, and it's just not happened at all for them. So
yeah, they've picked up like they obviously had a few injuries, like Fofana breaking his leg there at the start of the season. That was a big one for them. Even the likes of Johnny Evans and stuff like that getting injured is like a struggle for them as well. Like Vardy as well picking up injuries. They kind of lost that kind of goal threat about them as well. But they've lost some games this season where you've kind of said, how did they lose? Like they've not just lost 1-0 where they've been unlucky, where a team has got a breakaway goal. They've been battered by some teams. Like battered by some teams. They got battered in the FA Cup there against Nottingham Forest. And Brendan Rodgers pretty much threw his team under the bus, basically saying like it's they're not up for the fight. The players aren't up for the fight. Now they have a few players over in the African Cup of Nations that they're going to be coming back now in the next week or two, but I'm very surprised by the way Leicester have performed this season. Very, very surprised. Now obviously we're only halfway through the
Vardy is
season.
so important to them, isn't he? And when he's not scoring goals, they struggle. And I think one of their shining lights this season, on a poor season so far, has been Iheanacho. I think he's been he's like growing into that starting role now at Leicester. And I thought Daka was a really intelligent signing. I thought he'd fit Leicester down to the ground. He's like Jamie Vardy, and he's an African Jamie Vardy.
He's done well, to be fair. He scored a few goals. Like he's done well, yeah.
His goal to game ratio in Austria, and I know it's not the Premier League, so don't give me any stick. But I thought he was like the perfect signing to bring into that Leicester team. And you've got like Tielemans, Maddison. There's so much creativity in that Leicester team, but it just doesn't seem to be clicking for whatever reason.
Yeah, and like you say, the Liverpool this week, which could be a disaster for them. I don't know if Liverpool might try and get away with not playing Mane and Salah in that game. They're literally only after playing in the African Cup of Nations yesterday. Now, a lot of African players have come back and they've literally got off the plane and trained, and then they've played the next day. I can see probably Klopp having them in the squad, maybe on the bench, starting the likes of Diaz and Harvey Elliott instead. And then obviously bring them on if they're needed, because it's not as if they're going to be tired. Like they're match fit. They're obviously going to be tired from traveling and whatever. But like Leicester have Liverpool this week, and then like on the weekend they have West Ham. It's a tricky few games for Leicester coming up, like, and like they could find themselves like getting dragged down towards the bottom half of the table very quickly. Just going to scoot through the weekend's fixtures, because obviously we don't have another podcast till after that. There's 20 games between now and our next podcast. So Manchester United, your team, have Southampton on the weekend. Yeah. Brentford are home to Crystal Palace. Everton are at home to Leeds. Watford are at home to Brighton. Norwich at home to Man City. I hope Man City bounce off them. Liverpool are away to Burnley. I hope Liverpool batter Burnley. Aston Villa and Newcastle could be an interesting game. Spurs are at home to Wolves, which is going to be a good game as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously Leicester and West Ham. I think Man United are playing twice that game week, because there was a game called off between Brighton and Man United, so they might be playing a midweek game. I think it might be Monday or Tuesday of the following week. So it's actually on the 15th, yeah. So that'll be on Tuesday. Man United are playing Brighton on the Tuesday.
I'm actually a bit nervous about Saturday, to be honest with you, because I just don't know what I'm going to get. You know, I don't get up to Old Trafford as much as I would like, because of my location and for like I have my own under-12s team, which some people in the comments will know as well. So that takes priority Saturdays. So I tend not to sort of do much on Saturdays in general while I've got fixtures. We're actually not playing this weekend, so I can get across to see Keno in Manchester. But I just don't know what I'm going for, really. Not what I'm going to support my team. I don't mean it like that. I mean, I don't know what to expect. It's probably the only time in a long time that I'm going to Old Trafford and not knowing what I'm going to get, really. I don't really know what team's going to turn up. It happened against Everton when I was against yours. The Villa game as well was just awful. And it's getting to the point now where you're not expecting a performance from Man U at home anymore, unfortunately. And it's a really weird scenario because I'm usually really excited when I've got a ticket to the game. And I'm just a little bit like, I am looking forward to going back to Manchester, but I'm kind of looking forward to the people I'm going to see than actually the game, you know? So it's a really weird feeling, to be honest with you. I'm sure United fans can relate to it, but I'm getting to see Mr. Franey anyway, so that will be a positive, but I'm sure we'll touch on it anyway.
Here's a question from Andrew Williams, and I'll give you a quick answer on it as well. So, put Jota in that Man United squad. Does he get 10 goals in a season? No, he doesn't get 10 goals in a season, but that's not because Jota isn't a good player. That's because Man United wouldn't be able to provide 10 goals for Jota to score. Jota scores 15 to 20 goals a season for Liverpool because of the way Liverpool play. That's why Liverpool bought him, and that's why they scouted him brilliantly from Wolves. Liverpool's scouting system is incredible. They don't just buy players for having a name. Like, was Sancho needed at United? Was Ronaldo really needed at United? Probably not. So, like,
Keno backed me up, Andrew, with this one. I actually said before Liverpool signed Jota that Man U should have signed him. And Keno backed me up on that because it was on a podcast when he asked me, and I said 3 players, and he was one of them that I said we should sign. So there you go.
He's a handy player. He's a handy player. But
yeah.
But what I'm gonna say as well is that I do think that Manchester United will be better off if they didn't sign Ronaldo this season. I think they'd be playing a lot better football. And Man United fans might chop me down or whatever. That's because they love Ronaldo, and that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fair enough. They made the signings of Varane, and they made the signing of Sancho, and they look set. They were continuing on that decent form from the end of last season. And I don't know. I just think it's. I don't want to turn around and say Ronaldo is stunting players' growth. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. But if United don't get top 4 this season and Ronaldo leaves, what was the point? What was the point?
I think he's struggling, Matt. I think the reality of it is he's struggling because he cannot play on his own up front. He just can't. Hence why Bruno is right next to him when he plays in that 10 role, and McFred, I hate calling him that, by the way. That's why they've been so pinpointed this season, because Bruno's been that far up the field because he has to try and help Ronaldo and be the legs around him. I do agree that I think there would be less pressure on us if we didn't sign Ronaldo, but he was going to Man City, weren't he? So it's a case of someone put it in the comment as well, Trevor. I think it would have been a bit embarrassing for the club, and they had to do it. But the thing is, I mean, you can do a whole show on it, but Ronaldo was bought for commercial value as well. He wasn't just bought for his ability; he was bought for how much money the club will make off of him. There was no secret of the figure.
That doesn't mean that doesn't mean you have to play him. That doesn't mean you have to play him.
He's just one of them, though, isn't it? It's like buying Messi and not playing him. Do you know what I mean? Like, Messi's struggling at PSG, but nobody talks about that because he doesn't play for Man United. But I think the reality of it is he's here and he's got to play whilst he's here, I think. But I think you've probably got a case to say that we might be a better organised team. There might not be so much pressure on us but there is.
I can't remember what game. I can't remember what game it was. Ronaldo didn't play. I think he had a slight injury or something like that. But Bruno Fernandes scored 2 goals. He was incredible.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Bruno Fernandes's goals and assists, obviously he's still playing decent football. But I think he's been a shadow of himself since Ronaldo came into the team. And like you can't, I think United fans will be like, Ronaldo, and all this kind of stuff. You cannot tell me that Bruno Fernandes is on the same level as he was last season. He might still be the same player. He might still be the same player, but he's not playing. I'm not gonna say he's not playing to the best of his ability, because he is. He's just not playing in the role that he was in last season, where he was really effective.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And as I say, it's good to hear your points of view. Like I might not agree with everything you say regarding United, but it's the same with me with Everton. And it's good to hear it like from other people. And there is a lot of pressure on the club because we have Ronaldo, and everybody just automatically thought that he was going to be the icing on the cake. But I've said it a million times. You can build a cake, but if you don't have the right layers to the cake, you can't put the icing on top of the cake because the cake isn't built. And the reality is we needed a defensive midfielder in the summer and we didn't get one. So it's a case of the cake's got a gap in it, and you can't just go and automatically bring Ronaldo in and everything's great. Sancho's been poor since he's come in. Let's be real, he has. Varane's been training, but he's been consistently played next to a different partner every single week. And he's had his injury issues as well. But Sancho and Ronaldo Sancho's definitely struggled. I do think he's a very good player, but he has struggled for the price tag. I was expecting more from him. Rashford's not been playing well, and it's just highlighted Ronaldo even more because everybody just thinks that he was the answer, and the person that I won't name, because I don't really want to say his name, to be honest, that everyone knows what I'm talking about. He's a miss footballing wise. I agree with you. You said it earlier, but it doesn't matter. The club should just get rid of him anyway. And he, in my opinion, he won't play for the club again. But that's a problem as well, because there's too many players in that squad that are not playing well. With the pressure of the board, with the pressure of the fan base, it's just a cauldron of negativity. And the fan base is right in how we're reacting to it, because we want to see the club ran properly, like a Liverpool, that don't go out and spend millions and millions, but have a solid structure. But it's just they're going left, and the board and the fans are going right, and we're just completely opposite ends of the spectrum. And that's the problem, because all that filters onto the pitch. And then it's up to the players to deliver, and hand on heart, some of them can't handle it. It's just the way it is. The quality is not there that we've had from years gone by. I mean, you can speak about teams as much as you want, but it doesn't matter, because the players that we've got now are the players that play for Man United. So it doesn't matter who was there. And signing Ronaldo, it does bring a spotlight on your club. It's just the way it is. But that's what happens with world-class players. And I feel like the system suit him for a start. He needs a Cavani around him that's going to run for him, and unfortunately, it isn't an option in a 4-3-3. So it's a case of you've got to do what you got to do, and it's like you said. I think you made a comment earlier about having big balls and dropping him, and to a certain extent, I don't think Ranieri's got that. But who's making the decisions at Man U? Is the manager making them? I don't know, because there's some decisions I think, nah, that's not a footballing decision.
Well, our players going to take Ralph serious because they know he's not going to be there in 4 months' time?
I think that's half of the problem, mate. I think that's half of the problem. He's definitely not been allowed to do things his way. There's definitely players that have reacted negatively to his ethics and the way he sees football and wants his team to play. That his first game was the blueprint of how we should have moved forward, and certain players haven't liked it. With his training sessions, they're doubling sessions, they're staying late, and they don't like it. And there's just there's too many players at the club, and this is turning into a Man U podcast, so I'm going to shut up in a minute. But there's too many players that are comfortable at the club, and they're the ones that need moved out. But it can't happen overnight. You cannot break up a club in a season. You just can't in a couple of windows. It has to be done over 2 to 3 to 4, maybe 5 windows. And unfortunately, I think at the moment we're just going to have to ride the storm and just accept that it's not going to get any better anytime soon. Until if you're a top manager, yeah, if you're a Ten Hag, everybody's talking about this guy, a Pochettino. Would you be looking at Man United right now and thinking, yeah, I fancy that? Because I wouldn't.
For the money, yeah.
Yeah, but
for the money,
that's
yeah.
half the problem. Half of the squad's there for the money.
Yeah. No, I think
they need the restructure.
In terms of they do. In terms of attracting a manager, I think Man United will always be able to attract a manager. But I think it's gonna take a big manager to come in and sort the mess out of Manchester United. And I think they need to be given free reign and getting a proper director of football. Like I don't want to go down the route saying that like Everton are giving out jobs for the boys and stuff like that. Having the likes of Duncan Ferguson still there. I don't know. I love Duncan Ferguson. He's great. He's passionate about Everton and all that, but he's also been a part of the last 6 failed managers. So why is he still there? Frank Lampard said he wants him as part of his backroom staff. That's fair enough. I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Kenwright said Duncan Ferguson is staying whether you like it or not. That could be 2 different stories. I think are Manchester United now at the point where they need to hit the reset button and just say, if Ronaldo's going to go next year, he's going to go. Fine. Thanks for the year. It was great. Thanks for all the brand deals, all the brand money, fantastic marketing money. Great. We need to build without you. We cannot build. Manchester United cannot build a team challenging for top 4, never even mind the title, challenging for top 4 around a 37-year-old striker.
No, I agree.
Because like obviously he's 37 years of age, he's still a fantastic goal scorer, all this kind of stuff. But in terms of longevity over a 50-60 game season, you cannot build your team around Ronaldo. You build your team around the likes of Rashford, like young players like that are going to actually are the future of your club. You can't build a team around Ronaldo when he mightn't even be there next year. Do you know what I mean? So
that's half of the problem. And you're a complete neutral when Man United, and you're speaking complete and utter sense. Do you know what I mean? It's everything the Glazers have done is short-termism. There's no long-term, and they have went out and bought the likes of Ahmad, but he's at Rangers. Do you know what I mean? He's not at the club. Palestri, there's another player. He's out on loan. Do you know what I mean? So they are investing money into young players, but there just needs to be a reboot. And I think you're right. If it's a case of Ronaldo does leave, yeah, it'll be gutting because United fans love him. But we've survived before when top players have left. Keane, Beckham, Van Nistelrooy. You know, so it's a case of
but it's different. It's a different league now, man. It's a different league now. Back then, it was.
If United bring in Ten Hag, he needs to be able to run the club like he does at Ajax. He's not going to go after the big, massive marquee signings, but a hand on heart, and I hope I'm wrong when I'm saying this, Matt, I don't see a manager given full reign. I don't, because
this is the problem, right?
Sign players for footballing reasons. They just don't.
This is the problem that I have, right, with Ten Hag, right? Obviously doing a fantastic job at Ajax, right? No denying that, right? Fantastic job at Ajax. Me or you could do a great job at Ajax in terms of if we were given that squad now, we were able to say, right, go out and play. Now, I'm not going to turn around and say what Ten Hag is doing in terms of behind the scenes. He's probably doing really well at the club and all that. That's absolutely fine, right? In terms of Manchester United as a squad, I can relate it to Everton. Everton had 6 managers now with the same kind of nucleus of the squad. The likes of Coleman, Pickford, all them boys, they've all been there under these failed managers, okay? Sometimes it does come down to the playing squad. No manager in the world could come in and fix Everton's problems. Everton have been going from 8th position under Sam Allardyce right, to 16th position under Rafa Benitez in 6 years with a billionaire investing 650 million into the club. Okay, it's bad recruitment, it's bad
Yes,
players,
that's the
and it's
main
a
thing.
bad team. Okay, we've had Carlo Ancelotti in there, finished 10th. Right, Roberto Martinez, he's managing Belgium at the moment. He had us one of our highest Premier League finishes. Went backwards as well. Sometimes you have to look at the playing squad before you look at the management. I'm telling you now, Pep Guardiola couldn't sort Everton's playing squad out at the moment without spending 600 million, and that is the problem. I do. I've been looking at Everton for the last 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and I'm not happy with the way the players are brought in. The recruitment is terrible. I can start to see Man United going down that route. Not necessarily in terms of recruitment. I think the Sancho one, you could probably say 60, 70 million, and you want him to be scoring 15 to 20 goals a season or goal contributions in terms of goals and assists. It's his first season. We'll judge him more next season, I think. But I just think, what are United better off doing? Are United better off turning around to the likes of Pogba and Ronaldo and just saying, listen, we're better off without just good luck, see you later?
Yeah, well, Ronaldo, I don't know, but if you look at Pogba was our best player the other night against Middlesbrough. The whole game changed when he came off.
Yeah,
Pogba's
you missed
been
Pogba.
injured for
Man United
months,
have missed Pogba, yeah.
and the majority of the fan base, I'm sure there's people watching this that are Man U fans that have given up on Pogba. Just completely given up on him. He's going to leave in the summer. Everybody knows he's going on free. He's going to end up in Paris. It's just what's going to happen. But that we're relying on him last season, and there's no secret as to why the board are lobbing reported stupid sums at him, because he's commercially viable. Like, he's the face of Adidas. Like, Man U are not run for footballing purposes. They just ain't. Like, whether you want to accept it or not, it's a fact. And we're always after the key players that are the big super kid of Europe, Jadon Sancho. He's the best thing since sliced bread. Let's go and buy him. I'm not saying Sancho's a bad player. He's far from a bad player, and he will be a very good player for Man United. I'm sure of that. But for that amount of money, you could have invested that in maybe 2 players with better recruitment. But the infrastructure of the club isn't there. So I don't know what the scouting's like. But recruitment-wise, and you made a great point earlier about Liverpool's recruitment. They buy players to fit systems. Man U don't, because they don't really have a system. They've not got a sort of structure in place to know that Man U play a 4-3-3. Ranić played a 4-2-2. Then he's reverted back to a 4-3-3. And then he's playing a 4-2-3-1. So there's no identity in my head as a fan of the club to think, right, so I can see, right, okay, so he's got them 2 sitting midfielders. So he's got McTominay, right, okay, McTominay is the grafter. So who are we going to get to play next to him? Who can enhance McTominay's game as well as influence themselves on the club? It's always the same players that we're linked with. It's like, right, we need a defensive midfielder. So who's the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League? Right, everybody's talking about Declan Rice. Right, okay, Declan Rice. But there might be a cheaper Declan Rice that can do the same role, like a Basuma or someone like that. But is Basuma going to sell as because he's not the best option? There's a lot. I mean, I could spend the whole bloody show on it. And I get frustrated talking about it because Liverpool's recruitment is so good that you have to look at Man U. And even you're probably looking at Everton's recruitment with James Rodriguez and players like that. Like, the Everton I remember is like the Moyes, his recruitment, when you had like Olsen and you went out and bought Tim Cahill for peanuts off of Millwall and like just players like that, where it wasn't like, I know the market's different now and you can't go and pluck players at them prices no more. I get it.
Well, we did it with Demarai Gray and Andros Townsend. Like, we had no money and we went and did that. And like, to be fair, Demarai Gray and Andros Townsend are probably up there in terms of our goal and assists this season. So I much prefer that. There's no better feeling than getting a player for free and he turns out to be one of your better players.
I totally agree.
It's unbelievable.
Keane will back me up in this. If he's listening or not, I don't know. But I always say Man United never used the free transfer market well, and we did in the summer to bring in Tom Heaton. I think he was a very good signing. But there's so many good players out there, like Nicolas Sula's available on a free this summer. We could have got Zakaria on a cheap deal in January, and now he's at Juventus. They paid 5 million for him, which tells me Man United are not looking at players that are financially good deals and can fix problems in squads. Because we could have brought Zakaria in now for £5 million. If it didn't work, it's £5 million. It's not 80 million, you know. But
yeah,
it happens at every club, you know. And unfortunately, mine it's in the limelight because of the size of the club. But you're right in what you're saying. If there's good, honest people working in the background and looking at sensible deals like Townsend and like Damari Gray. I mean, I looked at them signings and thought, we worked with Townsend at Newcastle. He's a decent player. He's got a really good. He hugs the touchline. He'll give Everton an option there. Damari Gray, he's come back from Germany. He's got something to prove. He's still relatively young, quite a talented young player. Good. What if it doesn't work? It doesn't matter. They haven't paid anything for him. But you just don't see that at the bigger clubs. I don't know whether it doesn't work with that. And Reece has just said Sula's going to Dortmund, which I wasn't aware of, which is a really good signing.
Just signed for them today,
yeah. I don't know. The transfer market is a really interesting one, recruitment and stuff. It's probably my favourite thing to talk about with football, and our clubs have predominantly not been very good at it recently, you know. So it's a case of, I'm sure we'll get into more of it as the weeks progress. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have a lot. We're gonna have a lot on next Monday's podcast. We'll probably try and wrap things up now, an hour and a half into it. But on next Monday's podcast, back again next Monday at 7:00, we're gonna have a lot of games to digest. Both of our teams will be playing twice. It's gonna be 20 odd games to talk about. We'll look forward again to the upcoming fixtures again for next week or the following weekend. But Jamie, thanks very much for jumping on today. We're going to wrap it up there and leave it there. Guys, thanks for all your comments as well. Reece and Trevor and all the boys in the comments there. Big up to the guys. And make sure you share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Jamie, anything to say before you go?
No, just obviously really appreciate everybody getting involved in the comments. Hopefully this is going to be like a quite regular thing now. I know Trevor did give me a little dig earlier saying he thinks he's getting invited back next week. You will be seeing me and Matt together. I've had a bit of a hectic day today, so Matt's really put a lot of work in the background for me, which is really appreciated. But hopefully this will be a bit more of a regular thing and we can flow a bit more. But yeah, get used to these two faces because they're going to be talking Premier League a lot. But massive shout out to everybody that takes the time to listen to our shows and gets involved in the comments and stuff. The show wouldn't be the same if you just didn't do that. So as much as I wish I didn't get banter all the time, Trevor, keep you doing your thing and coming and getting involved in the channel. Andrew, everybody, Reece has been consistent tonight, and thank you very much for today, Matt. I've had a bit of a crazy day, as you know, off the camera, mate. So I appreciate your hard work, and yeah, look forward to Monday next week. Like and subscribe to the channel, guys, and get me and Matt on the socials to know when we're going live time wise and that in the future. So yeah, this is going to be a regular thing. So I'm excited, and let's do it.
Yeah, and make sure you check out on Thursday the weekly Steel Chair podcast that's going to be hosted by Reece, and Dimes and Buckets is going to be going on Fridays, I believe. And that's going to be Rach, Greg, and him as well. So best of luck with those podcasts, guys. And yeah, so Jamie loves the Magpies, apparently. Talking to by Reece here. So listen, thanks again, guys, for all the comments and all that. And listen, thanks very much for tuning in tonight. We're going to be back again next Monday at 7:00. Jamie, enjoy your week. And I'll be texting you throughout. I actually want Man United to win tomorrow, and I hope Everton do the business over Newcastle tomorrow as well. All right, buddy.
No problem at all, mate. I'll wait for your message.
All right, pal. Listen, thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next Monday. Cheers.
See you later, Trevor.